So welcome everyone to the CNY Solidarity Coalition meeting. I am Elaine Denton, a coordinating committee member. First, I'd like to acknowledge that we are on the land of Onondaga Nation in the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. If anyone does have any announcements of future events, community events, action alerts, you can always email me or Peter or at cnysolidarity@gmail.com to get into our newsletter that we release every Tuesday. So there is an important election coming up on November 7th, and early voting starts on October 28th. It is incredibly important to vote in local elections, as we have learned off-year elections are known for lower turnout. As money filters down from federal and state governments, our local leaders are deciding how to spend that money, as well as our money from property taxes and sales tax. The Onondaga County Legislature just voted last week to approve a $1.5 billion budget. But what does that mean? Where is our money really going? I have personally looked at the county budget documents over and over and found them extremely confusing in the format they're presented in, and challenging to see where their tax dollars are going. With that, I'm really excited to introduce our representatives we have here and candidates we have here today to help us understand the budget better. We're going to hear their thoughts and ask questions for a healthy discussion about the budget and what we can do to improve this process in the future. So I'm just going to introduce our panelists here. We have Bill Kinne, currently representing District 15 in Onondaga County, and has been through many budget cycles as a representative and a legislative aide. Bill is running for county executive this year, and if elected, will have to present a county budget in 2024 for 2025, as the county executive does each September. We have Mary Kuhn, who represents District 7 in Onondaga County, and has kept us very informed on county issues, which we thank her for being with us today to share her thoughts on the budget. And we have Maurice Brown, who is running for Onondaga County District 15, and we're excited that he was able to make it to this meeting to be part of this discussion. And lastly but not least, we have Marty Masterpole, who is our county comptroller and is running for re-election this year. I'm excited to have Marty here as part of this discussion, as he knows where the money is coming and going from the county. Plus, he has experience of being a county legislator, a city common councilor, and he was the city auditor. So thank you all for joining us. To start, the panelists are going to lead us in the discussion and share our thoughts about the county budget.
As a member of Solidarity and part of putting this together, I just want to say that I think what's the best, I've only been on the legislature 4 years. The first 2 are pandemic years. The county budget is overwhelming. I meant to bring the binder. It's about this big. So trying to really, truly dig in and understand has still beyond me. So I think would be useful is to start with Marty, who has at least a better grasp, certainly a better grasp than I do, of the budget as a whole. Then Bill can talk about his perspective and where he thinks it should go. I can tell you why I don't approve of the budget, and I think that's probably what Mo will do too. So here we go.
So I'm going to hand this to Marty, but first I'd like to recognize Linda Irvin and Peggy Chase. They're both county legislators back there. And also let you know, Marty not only handles the county money, but he handles all his own money too.
One of them is a much easier task than the other. I have my life savings saved in my penny loafers, I believe. So just a quick introduction of, and actually I should mention, I know that Peggy and Linda will be retiring from the legislature this year, but so will Mary, and they will be dearly missed at the legislature. Well, Bill will be retiring because he's going to be the county executive. That's how that's going to happen. But yes, so I'll start with, I guess, a big overview of the budget, and I think maybe more specifically when we have questions, maybe when we can really get into the nuts and bolts or the specifics, because quite honestly, I care about what you care about. I mean, that's ultimately what our jobs are in a representative form of government, is to represent the constituents, and you're here, and I thank you for that, and that's what's most important. But the overall county budget is approximately $1.5 million, just under 1.5 billion with a B, not million. That's Bill Kinne's money, the 1.5 million. County budget is approximately $1.5 billion. The vast majority of it, I will say, is mandated services, if you will, passed on to us from state government. Now, we, those of us who are Democrats and believe in mandated services, things like the health department and, you know, social services and those very important services the county government pass on to our constituents. But that almost is the overall rub. The bump in the road is the difference between Democrats and Republicans in county government is, you know, how should those mandated services be delivered, where we should prioritize them, and, you know, ultimately, I think we know the answer, but we'll get into some of the nitty gritty as we move along here. But of that $1.5 billion, of course, we rely on state aid, we have federal aid, we have sales tax, which is probably going to be a very robust part of this conversation, and of course, property tax. And quite honestly, property taxes between the Republican majority will government is. For those of you joining us on Zoom, I apologize for the delay. We had a little feedback there. So we should end up talking most about where the money comes from, I believe. And property tax, the Republican majority continually brags about lowering the property tax to you'll hear a historic low. They cut the property tax levy this year. They cut the rate, all of which is facts. That's true. I'm not sure it's relevant, honestly. You know, what we pay in county property taxes is an extremely modest amount for an unbelievable amount of services that are delivered. So, you know, I think the elephant in the room, if you will, of what my colleagues on the legislature discussed most in the budget that was presented this year and ultimately passed was fund balance. So when I was on the legislature with Bill Kinne and Legislator Irvin back 12 years ago, I guess from 16 years ago till 12 years ago, I served on the legislature for 4 years. It was the first 4 years of, right after Nick Pirro had retired, the first 4 years of the Mahoney administration, our fund balance was in the vicinity of $100 million. And I should have had that exact number. I apologize, I don't. I did not go back and look at that, but it was around $100 million. Fast forward to my first year as Comptroller, which was in 2000, just before the pandemic. I took office January 1st of 2020, and the fund balance was a little north of $100 million. 124, I believe, was the number, and the Republican majority will. That's okay. So 127.
I think it was 70 at 2020.
And by the end, it went to 124. 70 at 2020. Thank you, Legislator Kuhn. And by the end of it went to 105. So now we're going to close the books. We closed the books in 2022. You know, last fiscal year was because 2023 we're still in. We'll have projections as to where we are, but in 2022 we were 194 million. Do I have that right, Mary? I mean, it's,
What I looked at, it was 125. We were at 105 and we hadn't ended with 120 million.
but at the end of 2022, which was the last, at the end of 2022, we're over $190 million. There's projected surplus in 2023 of approximately just under 40 million. I think there was 37 million. Then there was some spending in the budget to cut into some of that, some resolutions during the budget vote to spend some of the surplus on, of course, member items that the majority wanted. But ultimately, I guess the punchline to this is we're going to be over $200 million when we close the books in 2023. So what does that mean? It means 4 years ago, we're almost triple the fund balance that we were at, not quite, but almost triple the fund balance that we were at 4 years ago. What leads to a lot of that? And we can argue why sales tax are where they are, have energetic discussions. Gas prices are higher than what we once enjoyed. If you buy the big ticket items, as I call them in Onondaga County, you buy a car, you used to negotiate on the floor of the sales room with the salesman in an auto dealership. You're paying sticker price or better at the moment. It's supply and demand, what the market will bear at the moment. So those big ticket items that we pay sales tax on are inflated, and as such, sales tax is through the roof. As I mentioned in the very beginning, we rely heavily on sales tax in Onondaga County, and with that, this fund balance has ballooned. So what are our solutions, or what are the things that I think should be prioritized versus some of the things that have been prioritized? Are they prioritize, let's cut the tax levy? And I guess I'd ask Legislator Irvin and Chase and Kinne, of course, who have historic knowledge of the constituents of Onondaga County. I never have had somebody come up to me and say, you really have to lower my Onondaga County property taxes because I just can't afford them. I mean, they pale in comparison in compared to A, other taxes that we pay, and once again, B, the services that are delivered by county government. So, well, the majority at the moment wants to continue to cut the tax rate. This year you might save $20, $30 on your tax bill. And the issues that are important that I think Legislator Kuhn should speak to here, lead poisoning in children, all of the services delivered by the health department that were tried to be enhanced in the budget, and we're not. So I guess I'll leave it there for right now. I think Legislator Kuhn and Kinne, as well as Mo, can add some to this conversation, but I want to give you an overall view of kind of what we're looking at. I can get into some of the real nitty gritty if you want to, but I think the higher level conversation is probably, most appropriate. So I'll turn it back to Legislator Kuhn.
I'm just going to jump in before Bill, just some details about what Marty just said. So the revenue sources for the county, 23% of the revenue comes from sales tax, the county portion of sales tax. 12% is state aid, 10% is property tax, and 10% is federal aid. Then where does it go? 19%, so that's 55% of the money that comes in, comes from those sources. The largest expense categories are 19% for wages, 17% for mandated programs, which again are related to DSS, health department, and those kinds of services. 15% to employee and retiree benefits, and 9% to contracted services. So 51%, that represents 51% of the expenses of the budget. So just to give it a frame.
Thank you very much, everyone, for inviting me and for your participation here. It's greatly appreciated. Secondly, no matter what happens November 7th, I think, in my humble opinion, this county is going to lose three wonderful people, and Mary, Linda, and Peggy, who have been, not only are great people, but they're very good legislators. They care about people, and you would think everyone would, but unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. This budget was hard for me, very hard for me to vote yes for. It lacks so much, and it's not that we don't have the money, but they're always accusing me of being a tax and spend liberal. Well, we didn't have to tax anybody because the money is already there. The money is in the budget, and rather than deal with the way the Republicans have dealt with it, I mean, who likes to pay taxes here? I mean, no one really likes to pay taxes, but when you live in a democracy, it's part of the system. So how should the money be spent? Does anyone here not want to have a health department? Does anyone here not want to take care of those that are in need? Or how about the sheriff's department? Does anyone not have a sheriff's department? You need something. And nothing is perfect, but we have to take certain things and we have to deal with them. And I'm always frustrated by the other side of the aisle when they say, oh, we just want to spend. Well, yeah, the Democrats wanted to spend this year. We want to spend an extra, what was it, 300,000 or so on the lead program. I mean, we wanted more, but we knew we'd never get it. I mean, the Republicans have a $10 million for housing. You know, that's nowhere near enough. There's a county in Maryland called Montgomery County that a couple years ago started with $100 million to work with the private sector for housing. So everyone wins. The private sector wins, the people with no houses get affordable housing, and the government wins. It's a win-win, but they start with 10 million and they think they're doing wonderful. When you look at some of the things in the budget, I'm sure that Mo will probably want to say something about this, but since I'm here and I voted on it, you know, there was $13 million for the improvements at the Onondaga Lake Marina. Anyone here use the Onondaga Lake Marina? I didn't think so. Don't get me wrong, I have nothing against having nice things for the people of this county and those that use it, that's fine. But what about the things that affect everyone else? You know, affect the homeless, affect children. It's, to me, the priorities are all mixed up. And I'm not a tax and spend liberal. I want to provide the appropriate services. I was, the first 10 years I was elected, my district ended at the corner of Colvin and Comstock. So some of you might have lived in that area or still live in that area, but I was your legislator for the first 10 years, and then they did redistricting, and that got taken away from me. I call it the outer Comstock area. So I've been around for a long time. I've been grateful that the people have elected me. It's an honor to serve. It's been extremely frustrating year after year to see this budget surplus grow, and for the current and past administrations to not at least attempt on a big scale to solve some of the problems. So they say there's what, 11 million in there for lead poisoning, I think, but there's no coordinator for the program. How can you not have a coordinator? You know, the health department does something, home headquarters does something, everyone's doing something, but no one knows what we're all doing. We wanted a position, was it $75,000? $75,000. Oh, no, it's already in the budget, we'll work that out later. They say that a lot, but they never work it out because they don't care about it, they don't deal with it. And guess what? Linda, Peggy, Mary, and if I'm not elected myself, we won't be on the legislature to push it. We'll have people like Mo, which he will, and that's good, but that's one compared to four. So, but yeah, I mean, I guess we're going to talk about the abstract eventually. I'm not a fan of the abstract, so.
Tell people what the abstract is. I never knew about the abstract until I got on the legislature. Does anybody here know what the abstract is? Somebody does. Everyone else doesn't.
What?
Yeah,
Too abstract for me.
that's why it's named that on purpose.
Tell people what it is.
So somewhere along the line of 1970, Lee Alexander and John Morroy worked out a deal. The city had reached its borrowing limit. So they worked out a deal to, the county would provide some services and the city taxpayer would pay for it, or the county would provide a service and the city taxpayer would pay for it. Over the years, it's the county's providing the services and the city taxpayer is paying for it, but not through your tax. Well, it is through your taxes, but it's off the city's books. For instance, when you go to the library, it says Onondaga County Public Library on there, but the city pays for that in the abstract $5.6 million. The 911 center serves all of Onondaga County. The city residents, you pay a disproportionate share because you're being taxed on your city tax and your county tax. So I'm very much against the abstract. It served its purpose at its time, I suppose, but over the years, I think it's gotten such that the city people, the city councilors and the mayor, who rightly should look at this, don't.
Marty, you have a different perspective, if you wanna do that, because I think that's,
To the abstract?
yeah.
Oh, you can't talk.
Bill doesn't want me, well, I'm not disagreeing with him. Actually, there is an audit, that was done when I was city auditor. Bob Antonacci was county comptroller. We did a joint audit of the city-county abstract. It is on the website still. I believe it's probably still on both the city website and it's definitely on the county website. So if you go to the OnGov website, up at departments, there's the tab for all the departments. Go to the comptroller's office, and it lists all the audits and including ones from past comptrollers. It's not, refreshed when there's a newly elected. And it also has, I'll tell you a couple things that are on that, as well as we update sales tax monthly compared to previous years, so you can kind of track and see how the county's doing sales tax wise. And it also includes, I believe it's Project Sunshine. I should know the exact wording of it. That was put on the website initially by Comptroller Antonacci, and I thought it was a good idea because of transparency. Any check that leaves my office is documented and put on, if Bill Kinne gets a bonus for all the hard work he does at the legislature, that is, those don't happen, don't worry. No, he does hard work, he doesn't get bonuses. But any check that leaves for vendor, for, you name it, anything that the county spends money on is documented, and you can follow that daily. So, city county abstract in that audit that I was referencing, I don't know if I'll get all the things that are on it. The forensic sciences of city county forensic science center, the public safety building, the new courthouse, libraries that were discussed, office of planning, SOPCA, Syracuse Onondaga County Planning Agency. I'm missing a few things. Boy, I should have all of them. Anyways, so exactly what the abstract is doing is masquerading the cost of city government. The city, whether we can make arguments forever, whether they should be paying for them or shouldn't be paying for them. But what happened at the time under the mayors that Bill referenced, I should say County Executive Mulroy and Mayor Alexander back in the day, but has continued, and the abstract gets updated every year during the county budget cycle. So right now, this document that's the abstract gets updated every year with the exact costs, and it is for services that the county charges the city for, whether or not we think they should or shouldn't. I suppose, for example, the public safety building, I'm not sure anybody could argue. It's got the city police in there, it's got the city fire department, it has, which could bring in a whole nother argument about moving those departments out of there, which Mayor Walsh is discussing. But for even things that nobody can argue about, okay, this is a shared cost between the city and the county. That's fine. One would think, city, you budget for your share, county, you budget for your share, you tax your taxpayers, and you pay your bill. It doesn't happen that way. How it happens is the number is, I'll say, hypothetically agreed to, because the city and the county almost every year fight and get back and forth on an agreed number of what the actual costs are. But then the county pays the bill and bills the city taxpayers on the county tax bill. So if you live in $100,000 assessed value of home in the city of Syracuse, or if you live in a $100,000 assessed home in the town of Geddes, that home in the city is paying more on their county tax bill because there are abstract charges included that that town resident is not, because hypothetically they're not sharing in that cost. Now I could make an argument, I pay my county tax bill for my county services and I pay my city tax bill for my city services, but you seem to be kind of double billing me. I'm paying my city share here and my county share, where hypothetically that person in the town of Geddes is really receiving the same service. So we could go in great debate of whether or not the abstract is fair. I even wasn't, I'm not an attorney, but I wasn't even sure it was legal. Like, you are absolutely positively just masquerading the cost of city government on your county tax bill. It's helpful. I mean, it would make the city either have to raise taxes, 20%, or, end up in a financial control board, neither of which are a great situation, obviously. But it's the opposite of transparency. You hear a lot of electeds, including myself, talk about we need to be most transparent with our taxpayers, and this is as abstract and non-transparent as possible.
So what I would have to add is more my objection to the priorities or the lack of priorities of the budget. As I had said in my letter to the newspaper, I asked for 3 different amendments to the budget. $30,000 for media. Our babies were not tested during the pandemic. WIC stopped testing them several years before that, and then nobody was leaving their house and nobody was going to the doctor. Peggy Chase and myself put in a resolution actually in the fall of 2020 to use some of that $70 million surplus, which is supposed to be a rainy day fund, to get more to lead and lead testing, and we suggested a lead bus. The answer was no, we don't need that. But suddenly we need it when the Republicans say we need it. We needed it then, and we need it now. And the $30,000 little chump change was to do media advertising, TV, radio, and digital, to inform parents that their children need to be tested, 1 and 2 year olds, to go to their primary care, or to have a phone number to call the health department where they're taking appointments for the lead bus. So that was no. The $75,000 for someone, the community foundation has been ahead of the county for years on lead poisoning for children. They have put together a group of people who are working on lead, including the health department and a variety of agencies in there, to come together, there's representatives to come together and talk about this. They have facilitators that they're being paid by the community foundation. They're national people. But so there's nobody locally that's gonna say, here's what came out of this meeting, make minutes to it, and follow up. That was $75,000, chump change, no. And the other one was, again, through the community foundation that was gonna be landed or held at home headquarters, was getting people in to train people and to get certified for lead remediation. The county will even say, we have lots of money, but we don't have people who can do this. And they had gonna have 3, and they were asking us to fund 1 at $75,000. No. So those kinds of priorities are absurd. Nobody even gave me an understanding other than there's already $2.7 million in the budget, and if you put it together with what was there last year, there's $11 million. We need $100 million. And we need a coordinated service. We need coordination. So that was my thing here. But the other thing that was astonishing to me was that we got a letter from a Republican judge, Judge Karolounis, about Hiscox Legal Aid Society. And let me just give you a couple of things. The family court, this is one of the things she's saying. Family courts are in crisis. Funding for constitutionally mandated representation of families in the upheaval has not even remotely kept up with inflation, recession, pandemic, a housing crisis, and the meteoric growth of a complex legal issue facing family court. So they asked for $400,000. The budget gives them $200,000. We asked for another 2. Give them what they asked for. And one of the comments from a budget analyst was, they're a 501c3 that can fundraise. Are you kidding me? And there was not one word from the other side of the aisle about why not, but they voted against it. I just don't understand this. And then the Board of Elections, which I know people have heard about, they shorted them by $1 million, $1 million. And Dustin and Michelle Sardo, the 2 Republican Democrat, sent a 3-page letter documenting why they needed that. There's way more early voting sites. We're gonna have a lot more early absentee voting. We're coming up to a presidential election. We have new voting machines that require more inspectors. They iterated everything, including the fact that we are the bottom 3, and I had these numbers and I left that piece of paper home, unfortunately. It's something along the line of, we have one worker at the Board of Elections for something like 15,000 voters, whereas the average in New York State is 1 for just over 7,000. Our pay is the lowest in the state. It's unbelievable, and this is not a partisan issue. This is a democratic responsibility, the franchise. So we, the Democrats, put through budget amendments to bring that up. It was all defeated. The Republicans put in, again, I left those numbers home, but about maybe 2/3 of what was asked for, but put it not to the Board of Elections, but in contingency until they can show that they really need it. This is the only department that has ever been asked to do this. And one of the ways that the budget is managed initially is that each commissioner of various departments, they don't get to sit down with the budget making people and say, here's what we've done with the money, here's what we're anticipating, and this is what we'll need. Nope. They are given a budget. Figure out how to work within that budget. So the lack of communication between people who are delivering the services and the people who are giving them the money seems to be, in my opinion, broken. A lot of money goes to tourism. There's never a question about that, because we want to bring people in and get their money, I believe, at the expense of people who live here and pay taxes. Finally, I just want to say, I looked at Erie County government, and this is very interesting. This is from 2022. They have a Democratic county executive, just saying. Erie County government is flush with cash and aims to spend quite a bit of it. The county finished 2022 with a budget surplus of $96.4 million. Flush with cash. What did you say? $200 million. That doesn't count the $85 million to house fish. That was cash. That was taken out of cash. So we're looking at close to $300 million if we take the fish out of it. And we have a housing crisis. And we've heard the county executive say he's pushing development because of Micron, but there's very little in terms of requirements of those developers to have affordable housing percentages. Again, we're not looking at what our county needs and what our city needs. The abstract thing bothers me, although I don't understand a lot of these things. The city has a budget of, what is it, about $380 million, something along that line. 47% of the property in the city is taxable. So 53% is nothing. The county has, I assume it's close to 100% on this churches in the county. The houses are way more expensive, so they're getting way more money. I don't understand why we're not helping the city more, because without a strong urban center, who wants to come here, I guess, for the $100,000 jobs at Micron? But anyway, back here, the bones of a deal is in place to allocate $72 million of it to new county priorities and programs, ranging from new weapons detectors at the Central Library, where they were having a lot of trouble with kids fighting and knives and guns in the libraries, to millions in construction to aid Erie County Community College. Much of the surplus will serve as a foundation for priorities laid out, whatever. So their budget surplus and what they want to spend it on, we're in a very different perspective about how our tax dollars are to be spent. And I don't like it. So it doesn't like it either.
No, you're fine. Elaine, I'll ask, is there like a Q&A portion? Because I know time is getting, I kind of want to yield my time. Oh, you sure? I know 3, like we're getting there. But if folks do have questions, feel free to like raise your hand, I'll stop. And I'll be brief. So I'm Maurice Brown. I'm running in this district. We're actually in the 15th, the soon to be 15th County Legislature district. And I am, I'm definitely, if Bill is getting called the tax and spend liberal, I'm definitely going to be considered a tax and spend liberal, and I'm not going to run from that. We have real priorities in our community that we're not addressing in our budget. So the only thing that I really want to point out is a logistical thing about the budget. So correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. The executive gets first and final say. And that's why I'm supporting Bill Kinne, and that's why it's really important that the executive starts us at an equitable place. Because when, Mary suggests amendments, when Ms. Peggy suggests amendments, we're amending a budget that's already, screwed at the beginning. I think that, what was it? It started off with $10 million for lead. I think it should have started near six figures. Like, we just start from such a deficit that you're trying to amend, from so little. And that's because the executive is able to, start the conversation. Once the legislature does the amendments and pass it, then the executive again has to sign it into law. So that office just has so much control of the budget process. And I think we need to, as a community, as constituents, we need to be vocal about what we want to see in our budget before it's proposed. Even like all year, economic development gets prioritized, but you look around the country, but specifically the state, you look in Erie County, you see what they're doing in Binghamton, Broome County, when they had their like aquarium moment, the new money coming in, they used it to do housing. They did a little too much luxury housing, which is another issue, but more housing is always better. I'll take that over a fish tank 10 times out of 10, just always. And I am not a fan of luxury housing, let's be clear, but moreover, I think that we need to prioritize people. That's pretty much the only thing I want to say. I do want to give time to answer questions, because
Maurice just reminded me of something. The county executive delivers the budget to the people and to the legislature, and then it should become the legislature's budget. But it's not. It is totally run by whatever the county executive wants. And a great example of that was the Board of Elections, when Dustin and Michelle asked to address the legislature about this funding gap. And they got a letter telling them if they wished to discuss it, to go to the county executive. Now that budget was ours, but it clearly was not. Absolutely.
Just when Mary was talking about the Hiscox Legal Aid Society, we contract with them for family court. So in case you didn't know that, that's why the Republican judge wanted more money, because it's in such sad shape, and we were being denied that.
Elaine, just something quick, and then we can go to questions, obviously. The aquarium proposal has been argued about a lot. I think there's only one side of the argument, quite honestly, but I'm going to use their own numbers against them, as I like to. The proposal says it's $85 million. As was mentioned, it was paid cash. One of the reasons it was paid cash is because you need 9 votes to spend cash. You need 2/3 to borrow, to bond. He barely got 9. There was no way he was getting to 2/3 to borrow. So right from the start, it smelled fishy. Secondarily to that, it was let's use their numbers. 85 million. That was the proposal when it was rolled out 2 years ago. Initially, I think it's inflation and all things that happen. It's probably closer to 100 million, but let's use 85 million. Also, with their proposed amount of visitors that would show up, it's 1,200 people a day.
1,465 people a day.
1,465 people a day. Seems like
Every day of the year.
Every day of the year. Not likely to happen, but I'm going to use their numbers against them, and let's pretend that many people show up. Let's pretend it's only $85 million to build. Those numbers break out that the increased revenue to Onondaga County, and they even throw in room occupancy tax as well as sales tax, is approximately $750,000 a year additional that this $85 million investment is going to get us. If you have a return on investment of 113 years on something you spent $85 million on, it's preposterous. That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. We're going to invest something that's going to return on investment of 113 years with by their numbers. These aren't even the things that I think. These are their numbers we're using against them. It's the craziest thing. And I've been told it's going to be beautiful. For $85 million, it should be beautiful. So we can go to questions from there, I suppose.
Let me just say something here, please. None of us here are against fish, all right? I personally love my haddock on Friday nights. But he never gave us a business plan either. All the things Marty said was true, but to me, that's one of the most insulting things. No business plan. How do you present something without a plan? And also, no plan for maintenance. And you should know that almost every aquarium in this country loses money. They don't make money. The one exception is probably Atlanta, but Atlanta had several major companies, like for instance, Home Depot gave them $45 million. There's not been one talk of private business contributing to this aquarium. The county executive said that, well, after we build it, they'll come. I think we've heard that before in a movie. So it's just a bad deal, folks.
Thank you, everyone. That was really great. I just want to go through, like, we heard about the county budget currently and what they passed. We heard about what they would change differently, what their priorities are. And my last question was what can we do, and the people in the room and watching online, help to pass a better county budget? And I think Mo touched on that by being loud, by taking this information and sharing it. And now, especially now, what are your questions? Who has a question? Come on up.
When the aquarium thing was passed, to get this $85 million fish tank, I want to know how much money was spent to get that 9th vote or whatever. I mean, there were shenanigans that went on with how that final vote to put it over the top, and to me it was shameful. So I'd like to hear the whole truth about that.
One of the things that I have said is that we don't know what the Republicans got. I know Mark Olson from Manlius had said he was not in favor of it. And then he went on vacation, was allowed to zoom in for a positive vote. He's also gotten a lot of money since then for his, but I don't know that there's a direct quid pro quo. That's correct. That was Legislator Garland, and it was 4-point-something million. But we believe that was HUD money that was destined for that area. I just learned the other day that Legislator Garland had given a list of 11 demands in order to get a yes vote, and he got every one, he said. And one of them, the reason I found that, I asked him, there's a program that he had talked with superintendent about getting high school students in a lot of the career paths to do lead remediation. And he talked about having that at Fowler, but it turned out that the facilities were better at or more appropriate at Nottingham. And that program is happening. So he said that that was one of the 11 demands. I don't know what the other ones were. My concern about that is my guess that most of them went to the South Side, whereas a minority community that is one of the poorest areas in the city. By the way, our poverty rate since Ryan McMahon's PIE thing, poverty, infrastructure, and economic development, has increased by 4%, just saying. My question was, why does somebody have to trade a vote for a boondoggle to get what the people in that community need? We need lead remediation. Why do we have to trade a vote for that? They need affordable housing. Why do you have to trade a vote for that? I don't know what some of the other things were, but it's a community that is dying for services, and you have to trade for that. That's the corruption that I think exists in this budgetary process and how the money is being spent. We are off balance with economic development. And as Marty would say, or anybody, of course you need taxes, you need sales tax, you need to bring people in. I understand that, but not when it's there and the people are over here. So that's the only one. And I've said, we certainly were not happy that Legislator Garland voted yes. On the other hand, at least you knew that he did something. I don't know what happened on the other side. Sure.
I think I'm as I said, I'm not an attorney. I'm not going to pretend to be an attorney, but I've been told through my legislative days and all the above this is not, I thank you for bringing up this question. This is well documented on Syracuse.com, and there was a press conference discussing it. Trading a vote for something that you're getting in your district, whatever, is borderline illegal. I mean, I had a former legislator who was an attorney say this is arguably indictable of what's happening, trading a vote for, once again, service. I could make the argument too that something that you should already be getting, but negotiating with an executive happens every day. I mean, it's the reality of what government is. Or negotiating with a fellow legislator of, I'd like this, we'd like that. It's, the county budget has been, talked about making sausage. You're kind of putting everything together and trying to come out with the best product possible. But openly admitting to and bragging about I'm going to vote for this because I got this, it's not legal. And I can't believe that it hasn't gone further than really what it has.
I want to say two things on this. We don't know what the other side got, but Mark Olson got a lot of money from Manoa. And it seems to me that no one that I'm aware of knew anything about this until the last minute. I believe it was Legislator Irvin that tried to tell Legislator Garland that he was making a mistake because she had asked her something and she didn't have it yet. And that was 4 or 5 years ago. But like Marty says, yeah, you have to make sausage, or, you have to make that, but you don't have to do it in a way that hurts the community. In my opinion, it shouldn't be done. In 1996, I think it was, I was offered something, and I felt it was, it would help my district, it would help the valley, no doubt about it. But it wouldn't help the community. It just wouldn't help the whole community. And I'm not saying I'm a saint or anything, but I just don't believe in practicing that type of politics. The one thing that we didn't talk about that you should is in my opinion, this county executive's tendency to use cronyism to do things. I mean, he gave a person that lost an election a job paying $105,000 a year. He had just recently hired somebody else, I think, to be put in charge of public safety for the Civic Center. Now, the position existed, but it hadn't been filled in over 10 years. So, I mean, to me, things like that are just wasteful, very wasteful. And that money could be used on helping people. But they don't want to talk about that. They always want to talk about cutting taxes. So I want to just bring this back up one more time. Yes, this county executive's budget lowers your tax rate, but because your assessment has gone up, now maybe not so many people in this room, maybe your assessment didn't go up, but most people's assessment went up. And if you live in one of those areas that is doing really well, your house was valued at $350,000, now it's at $425,000 or whatever. The point is your taxes are going to go up. Just because the tax rate went down, you're paying more per thousand. I mean, you're paying the same per thousand, but where before it was $300,000, now it's $425 or $450. So I mean, to me, that's a very, very slippery slope to go down, and I don't like that either.
So I think it's probably a good guess on my part to guess that most voters and potential voters in the county and the city have very little understanding about the budget, where the money comes from and where it goes. And it would be nice to have more. Bill talked about priorities being upside down, or I forget the term. You question the priorities of the current dominant force in the legislature, the executive. And I also have no trouble agreeing with you on that. But what I think would be helpful, we got a little bit from Mary on the specific amendments she offered that were shot down. But how can we, what kind of guidance can you give us to identify specific things that would be appropriate for the county to do, that it would be widely agreed, you could probably get a lot of support for saying we should be doing more of it, more than we are, so that we could have effective advocacy for things we're not getting. Libraries were mentioned. I think there's a lot of support for libraries. Board of Elections was mentioned, and it should be easy to gin up more support for helping the Board of Elections do what they need to do. But what are some other things we can do that are not part of the mandated things? Like, I know Medicaid, the state tells you gotta do this, this, and this, you got no choice about that. But what are how can we go about identifying specific things that are appropriate for the county to do and that we could do more of that would be broadly beneficial?
Well, the first thing is, it's almost 2024 and we still have a severe poisoning of our children with lead. I mean, I think it's time we tackle that issue, whether it be $15 million or $115 million. And I happen to know or believe that's a really popular item outside the city as well. I mean, I had a Republican call me and tell me his story about the children he worked with that were obviously suffering from lead poisoning. And so that's a basic one right there, the lead poisoning. But there's other things, all to do with, in my opinion, health. Housing, all right? We need affordable housing. This has to come from the people, though. It has to be driven by the people. And unfortunately, I'm guessing here that everyone in this room is fairly active in politics. You pay attention and you vote. All right? But look around you. And there's what? If you take out all the elected officials, there's maybe 25 people here. And I've had a legislator tell me this. He was a Republican, I'm just being honest about it. Tell me once, I'm not going to vote for that, even though you guys are right. They don't vote for me, so I'm not voting for that. And that's what he said to me. Now, to me, that is not only wrong, it's sinful. It's absolutely sinful that someone could actually think that and then say that and do that. We need as a community to get people to get out and know what's going on and to get rid of some of these people that are in office that are not doing the job. They like the prestige. I mean, I hate even saying that, because what prestige did we have as a county legislator? If anything, in my case, it made my wife more upset when I'd go to my children's t-ball games or whatever, and the people want to talk to me during the game. I gladly talked to him, but I asked him finally, I got smart and said, can you wait until at least the inning's over or something? But some of these people, they're just not in it for the right reasons. It's a stepping stone, A lot of the Republican lawyers want to be judges, so you do this. They want to run for the state assembly, I guess, or state senate, I don't know. But to me, unless the people throughout this county get involved, it's gonna be tough to change things. Because even if I'm fortunate enough to get elected, I'm gonna do things completely differently. But it's gonna be tough, very tough, getting it through a Republican-controlled legislature.
I'll pass it to Mo, but I just wanted to say regarding that, I'm concerned that there's a lot of hopelessness. Because unless people get engaged, even this election, McMahon has spent close to $250,000. If you turn on your TV, you'll see ad after ad after ad of how much he's done for the children in lead. You can't even listen to it if you know the truth of that. So, and Bill, what do you spend, about $50,000 or $60,000? Media getting the information out so everybody hears, oh, he's doing a great job, he's doing a great job, he's doing a great job. They don't hear this stuff. And I don't know, Doug, how to do a better job of getting the information out. I feel like that's the only thing I've been able to do as a legislator, is put things out, letters to the editor, Facebook, and do stuff. But that's a small percentage of and those are people who are paying attention. I'm worried about this election. With that article in the paper today about there's hardly any people running. If we don't get the city out and we don't get Manlius out, we're losing everything. We're losing him and Emily Essie. If we don't get, now how do you get turnout? I mean, we've been talking about it, we're knocking doors. What do we have our last one? 18% of the last local election, 18% of the local voters did it. Seriously? If we don't get the city out, we're screwed.
Okay. I want to directly answer your question, Doug. So if you look at, so my view of government, so I've worked with state, you know, I've worked with Tompkins County lawmaking, Albany. So like a lot of policy making is copycat. So you look around the country and you see what folks are doing. So in Chattanooga, Tennessee, they have one of the best municipal internet programs in the country. So other places saw that they did that and they want to emulate it. So that's kind of how I want to bring to policy making. So you look in Troy, New York. So Troy, I'll use them as an example. They're using ARPA funds that we're using for an aquarium. They're using it and they're giving it to homeowners to replace the lead pipes in their homes. Very expensive. Replacing those pipes is not cheap. But a county that just was flushed with $100 million is able to take it on. So the way I think we can engage people is by presenting our side, what we want to do. So what I want to do, if I'm so lucky to get elected, I want to invest in housing. I do. I want to really make housing a priority. I want to make transportation a priority. There's nothing, so this, and you guys probably will never hear me say this again, but one thing that Bill Magnarelli, my assembly member, who I disagree with on most things, but one thing we agree on is he said that we make the laws. We, the lawmakers, we make the laws, and then, you know, you determine its legality. So we got to start big. We as legislators, we as lawmakers, we can't be like, oh, what can we do? We should go into it saying, what does the community need? Like, what do we need? Do we need a stadium in a harbor? Probably not, but do we need a big bus system? It's like, yes, we need that. So how can we legally do that? Versus the other way. Not like, oh, what can we do? Because in Onondaga County, we haven't done much. If you look at all the big swings we've taken, the amphitheater, the aquarium, if you look at when we've put big money into projects, it hasn't been into people. We need to look at places that have put big money into people, and they exist. They exist. They're around there. And we just need to have that creativity. That's the kind of energy I intend to bring to the legislature, and that's, you know, where we need to go going forward. Sorry. There's a hand. Yeah, sorry.
I've always wanted to be at a press conference. I have two questions. The first question is, in terms of the amphitheater, the county put together a proposal of how they're going to pay for it, and low attendance, medium attendance, and high attendance. And part of it is that you're going to take the money from the amphitheater and you're going to put it to the aquarium. Isn't that clearly illegal?
I'm not sure that's, so let me give you the amphitheater funding first. I believe there's a ticket revenue that they're talking about putting some money towards the aquarium, but
Talking about using the money from the gambling.
after the bonding is paid. So what's happening at the moment is there is an agreement with the Oneida Nation on gambling revenues that was negotiated between the Oneida Nation and former Governor Cuomo, I believe is when that came in. So that we would not open a casino in Onondaga County. There would be no legislation. You know, we were excluded from opening a casino, and as such, we shared in the a percentage of slot machine revenue. So that money was also said that it had to go to an economic development project that would generate additional sales tax, I believe is how it was worded, right? Or travel and tourism.
I thought it was for ongoing maintenance and care for the amphitheater.
Well, it pays the debt service. So we borrowed the money for the amphitheater. The payment from the Oneida Nation pays the debt service.
And
As such, there's which we can argue, or you know, figures lie and liars figure here. The amphitheater makes money. You know why the amphitheater makes money? Because it doesn't have any debt. Of course, it's going to make money. So it has debt that's being paid for by this payment. But that casino revenue has exceeded expectations. It pays more than the debt service on the amphitheater. I keep getting these confused, the amphitheater and the aquarium. So it exceeds the amount of debt per year on the amphitheater, and as such, there's an account put aside to a rainy day fund, if you will. Now, that was used during COVID because obviously the casino was closed during COVID for that time period, and as such, we needed to use that savings account to pay that debt service, the bond, when there was no revenue coming in. However, it is exceeding again, and now they want to use that excess to, they said they could put it towards the aquarium. The interesting thing with this argument, because I heard it and I know exactly what you're talking about, is they've already allocated cash to it. Once again, there's going to be no debt service on the aquarium because they took it out of their savings account, out of our savings account, I should say. So I suppose it's legal. I think it fits the parameters of an economic development. I believe that was in the enabling legislation that the governor agreed to with the Oneida Nation, that had to be an economic development project that increased travel and tourism, brought room occupancy tax, and would generate other revenues. I suppose we can make an argument that the aquarium and the amphitheater are alike, that they probably meet that gray criteria.
Okay, because they want to divert that money to, that surplus and that fund to the aquarium every year as an annual subsidy.
As a maintenance, is that what they said, Mary? That was for ongoing maintenance?
And my second question is, I'm confused about the whole lead stuff. In terms of the community foundation, they're playing a role in it, and other organizations are playing a role in it. And I read in the paper about the van business. Who's calling the shots on that?
Nobody.
Yeah, no one.
Nobody. The health department should be taking the biggest lead, but they're only one in part of it, and I think that's the part that the county is responsible for health across the board, city, towns, villages, everything. And I don't think that they have the kind of juice, and part of the issue is all the commissioners, and I am assuming the health commissioner is under the fist of the county executive in terms of what can and can't be done. We lost a very good county health commissioner, what was her name? She was very short and wonderful. No, not Gupta, the one before her. Cynthia Morrow, who just said, you're not gonna tell me what to do for the health of the community. And so she left. So I'm hoping that doesn't happen with this person, but I think she's feeling her way through. But that was the point of that $75,000 job, is to begin. There's like 8 or 10, 12 different agencies that are doing all these things. And unless there's a plan, there isn't a coordinated plan for what to do. We may say we want $40 million, but how are we gonna spend it? There needs to be a coordination. It needs to come, I think, from the health department, but I don't think that's what's happening.
My concern is the actual
Micah?
party in Onondaga County. I don't look this old. I started working campaigns in 1960, where people had some enthusiasm. We had good candidates. Exactly. Now, even in 2 congressional elections, they ran the same person. And of course, the rub was, she's not from here, she's not one of us. And then the comment from the second time she ran, she came closer. Well, closer is still a loser. Why? I don't even know who the county chairperson is. Where are the county, the people running the party? Why are they hiding? And why aren't they funding you? That's a total disgrace.
100%. Our local Onondaga County Democratic Committee is totally out of the question. We should have a bench. We have Supreme Court judges.
Right.
2 Republicans are running for 2 seats. Are you kidding me right now?
Yeah, they just roll over like we don't have any.
Right. And that's what I'm saying about the hopelessness, the helplessness of all of this. And Bill is getting, and we don't have, OCDC doesn't have much money, but have they run a fundraiser for Bill? Have they done anything?
Who do they bring in? Any politician? No. Kevin McCarthy comes in, all the hot shots come in, and we go, well, put a plastic cup out for Bill. That's sickening.
It is.
So
absolutely.
That's my take.
Thank you for saying that.
Thank you.
thank you very much. It's been a very, very humbling experience running for county executive. He deserves to have an opponent. You voters deserve a choice. The paper doesn't do justice to what's been happening. I got another call this morning. Someone wants a sign. I got a call just recently from a gentleman here now that wants a sign. I went to a meeting before here and I was asked for a sign, 2 signs. So my name is getting out there in spurts, but I'm still not known because I don't have the money. Unfortunately, you need money to run countywide. I was told by a Republican once, who is in heaven now, never spend any of your own money because you'll work, if you do the job right, you'll work hard for the people and they owe it to you. And so over the years, I hardly spent any of my own money. But this year I am so upset by what's happening in our county, by the dictatorship, by the cruelness, by the unfairness of this budget, that I've spent some of my own money. Now, why did I have that money? Well, I started collecting Social Security in April. So I've got a little bit of extra money, so to speak. I used it for a couple personal things for my family. Well, one for my family and one for me. But the point is, we can't give up. We can't have the apathy. We've got to go out and try to get your neighbors, your relatives, spend a few minutes in the grocery store talking to somebody, do something, because we got to get people to understand that the only way we're going to change is to vote this Republican machine out of office.
I know there's another question back there too, but I just want to touch on a couple things quickly to that question. And Bill and I both, I mean, am I part of the problem or am I part of the solution? And I look in the mirror and wonder that from time to time. I've been in government here for 20 years, first elected back in 2001. As a businessman, I've never intended this to be a career. Actually, until 4 years ago, it wasn't a career. It was a part-time legislative position, et cetera. But, reach out to the Democratic Party, quite honestly. I mean, it's easy do I agree and think that things are going the way they should? No, I don't. But on the flip side of that is, I'm not sure what the solution is. I love to offer solutions where they exist. And in this case, it's Bill and I have discussed this a lot of times. We need candidates. We really need candidates. There are seats like Supreme Court, and does anybody want to run if they can't win? And you ask people, you're either spending your own money because these elections are expensive, or B, you're asking somebody else for their hard-earned, you earned money too, you worked hard, and I'm asking you to invest in me. That's easier than spending my own money for me, but in all seriousness, it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. And last and certainly not least, and I get my knocks in with the paper. I'll have my editorial board meeting tomorrow. I'm hopeful that I'm endorsed because it's a nice endorsement, but not likely because I'm going to be critical. That article that mentioned that scares us, there's probably going to be low turnout because there's a lot of uncontested races. There's 2 contested races that weren't mentioned in that article. Mine and Emily Essie for county clerk. So when we go into this, as I wanted to scream at Mark Wiener, and I'm going to have the opportunity to do so tomorrow, and I say, Mark, you're saying there's all these uncontested races, but you're part of the problem because you're leaving 2 of them that are countywide that are very contested out of your article. It's unbelievable to me. So I look forward and welcome anybody, but please become part of the process and help us come up with some solutions where we don't know where they are.
And Bill Kinne and the county executive was buried in the middle of that article too. It should have been the lead.
Alex, you don't get it. These are hard questions.
I'm sure this will be very hard. Hi, everyone. I'm Alex Marion. I'm running for Syracuse City Auditor, so Marty and I next year can work together on really exciting projects like auditing the abstract together again. But I just wanted to, I'm sorry I didn't catch your name, but I do want to say something. Yes, Mary? Hi, Mary, nice to meet you. I want to say something to my new friend Mary's point, and I certainly, I ran a primary this year. I'm not going to apologize or defend the history of the Democratic Party in this community. However, we have 3 weeks to make a difference and make some change. So I'm working on a plan. Mo Brown up there is helping me with our plan to get folks in the city out to vote over the next few weeks, because there is nothing more important that we can be doing than getting folks out to vote. We're going to be knocking on doors. We're going to be, putting mail out in the world. We're going to be doing some important things. So if you want to get involved, certainly after we're all done here, go see Mo, go see me. We're happy to talk to you all day and all night about what you can do to get involved and help bring folks over the finish line. And so, since this is the Q&A portion, I will ask a question of all of you. Tell us, what can we do to get involved with each of your races this year? And how can we follow up with you to do it?
I do want to thank Mary for your comment. That's one of the biggest problems in this community is our just inactivity by the local party. But to Alex's question, and honestly, we're all going to say the same thing, which is why I didn't really have to speak, but get involved. Get involved. So there's a bunch of ways you can support local campaigns. The most direct is by volunteering if you're able to. I'm pretty sure all of our websites right now, you can go on and volunteer. So on my website, www.electmauricebrown.com, there's a button, it says volunteer. So if you have the ability to click that button, we're going to be knocking doors. We're going to be doing phone banks starting pretty soon. But if you aren't able to volunteer your time, if you're in a position to make a donation, those donations go really far. It allows us to do, we're actually rolling out our digital program this weekend. So if you live in this area, you're probably going to start seeing some digital ads. But, that program costs. We have to pay for it. Lawn signs, mail. My campaign manager, it's important to me that he gets paid because I think all labor has value. So things like that, they cost. So if you're in a position to, give your money, I'll take it. If you're able to volunteer, then you can, help my campaign manager out with those tasks. I won't necessarily need the money. But volunteering and donations, those are top two. And then the third one, if you aren't able to do the first two, is talk about these campaigns. The other side, they're able to win because we don't talk about these things. We don't. We're uncomfortable having those conversations, with your friend who's apolitical, with, the parent-teacher group. We have to start talking about these campaigns because they matter. And they matter so much. I'm sure, so I've learned this because I speak to a lot of people that was on the other side through my military service, and a lot of them want lower taxes, but what's more than that is they want to know that their tax dollars are being spent in the right place. When they find out that their tax dollars are going to an aquarium, they're upset. They're upset when they find out their tax dollars are going to, pay for a marina at the state park. They get upset. Have these conversations with people. Talk to them about, hey, did you know they're spending our money to do this? A lot of people won't know that. So, having those conversations and then being able to say, oh, I'm supporting this candidate, Bill Kinne, he's going to change that. He's going to, make sure that that aquarium does have a, clean environmental impact statement. Those conversations go a lot longer than we realize. So those are the ways you can get involved. Yeah,
I
got one very brief. Mo, great job, and Mo runs unbelievable campaigns. I'd rather have him working for me than with me, and I don't mean that derogatorily. I mean because it would make my life a lot easier. But one thing, one of the digital campaign that he rolled out, and those are your little pop-up ads that are going to hit people's phones and all those. I have a radio commercials coming up here soon, as well as a pretty extensive digital campaign. But one thing that really hits a lot of voters, and you wouldn't be surprised, social media, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all the things, X, whatever we're calling Twitter these days. Like and share our pages, because if you have 500 friends and somebody else has 500 friends and you click it once and share it, you're hitting 1,000 voters, 1,000 people that hopefully are 1,000 voters. And when we're in margins, Emily Essie's race is going to be inside 1,000 votes, win or lose. I won by 4,000 votes 4 years ago, and the city turnout was great. I won the city 70-30. If I don't get that city turnout of 70-30, I'm in trouble, folks. And, you're going to have a rubber stamp Republican with a well, actually, it's going to give Bill Kinne a harder time. But honestly, those are the little things, those little social media stuff, the talk that social media goes a long, long way in politics and getting out your message. And just by sharing those things has a lot of reach.
Yeah, and I just want to say that a lot of people don't like talking about politics, but it's very important that you do. You know, if you want change, you got to work for it. So social media, you know, I'm not a big social media person, but I know it's working for me because I keep on hearing about it from people. That they heard about me from someone's liking me on Facebook. So, I mean, it's very important. You know, Mo said everything that needed to be said, and Marty added on to it. So, again, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
If you went to Catholic high school, you would understand a reference where Cicero gets up in the Senate and says he's not going to talk about Caesar's problems, Caesar's issues, and then he just proceeds to lay them out. So I wasn't going to do that. That is, I was going to do Cicero's thing. I say it's good to be at a meeting of the cheering squad for the local Democratic Party, okay. Cicero. Okay, but more seriously, I'd like to know what, not just you, but what we can do in a national situation where the public forum, which used to be filled by journalism, okay, is essentially in collapse. That social media is nice, okay, right? I don't like Facebook. I don't think it's a substitute for a public forum. But how is the public supposed to know about all the issues that you're all raising this afternoon in a situation where the local paper publishes twice a week, Wednesday and Friday, Wednesday and Sunday?
3 days, Sunday and 2 days.
And I don't think Spectrum is a substitute for public information, you know, public forum. There are just to suggest that, well, I'm not just simply criticizing. It seems to me that there are several campus newspapers in town. There are, I don't know if the high schools have papers anymore, but there are places where the trainees for public transcription and information generation can be put in place. But you don't hear about that. And you hear about, because of folks that you know, some of the terrible things that are going on in the schools. Right? But that doesn't get into the public sphere. And a number of these issues that you're bringing up about the aquarium, this is the first substantive discussion that I've heard about any of that. So how is the public supposed to know? If the public doesn't know, they can't be blamed for apathy.
I just want to put a plug in. Before I give it to Mo, there is centralcurrent.com is a new independent news agency. They're trying to do exactly what you're talking about, but it's a small, they just started over the last year, but centralcurrent.com, their commitment is to do in-depth reporting, but there's so much. And I think the Daily Orange has actually been stepping up quite a bit and in doing what the local paper should be doing.
Okay, so this is something I've thought about a lot because, so I work on campaigns and this is like, you know, our task. How do we get people to care about what's going on locally? So I want to speak one as like a community member, like there are things we can do, but there's also things government can do, and I think we need to stop ignoring that. So as a community, you know, we like I just mentioned, we have to talk to our neighbors, we have to do that. You can also like send in letters to the editor, like you can do things like that. You can call your local representative and say, hey, why aren't you talking about this thing? Like call your county executive, call your mayor, call, you know, your representative, your city councilors, and let them know. If you don't know, say, why don't I know about this thing? Say, you know, I went to a meeting at, this church on the east side, and they were talking about all these things I've never heard you say about. Like, why is that? So like that's something we can do like as activists, but I want to put the onus on government. Like, I'm running to be a county legislator. So one of the biggest problems that our county has, in my opinion, is a lack of transparency. So like there's a reason we don't know what's going on at the county, and it's because the meetings aren't live streamed. They happen at 1 o'clock on a random Tuesday when nobody's paying attention, and that's by design. They're doing that because they don't want you to know. I can say that, Marty might politically correct me, but we need representatives that are going to prioritize getting the information out. When I met with CSEA, the County Service Employment, when I met with them, one of the things they mentioned was that the positions, they had, vacancies for a bunch of time, and they were like short-staffed, and they were struggling to find people, and they wanted the county to do a better job promoting it. They wanted the county to use county resources to send out ads, to put things on the bus, to put things in the paper. We're looking for health, department employees. We're looking for DSS agents. But like the county doesn't want to do that. They don't prioritize that. So like we need to let our elected officials know, like, why aren't we So if you look, so this is like one of my like big, gripes. So the city of Syracuse, they have live streaming of their meetings. So like the city council, you can go on like the YouTube page and they have like production level quality. You can see like faces. There's a transcript at the bottom. If you look at the county's live streaming, you can hardly hear it. You can't see who's talking. It's night and day. And it's night and day by design, because the county officials don't want you to know who's talking, because they don't want to be held accountable. They don't want you to know that, they're the one that's supporting the aquarium. They want it to be confusing. They want you to have to do that extra work. And we need to start calling that out. So yes, as the public, as, a private citizen, there are things you can do and you should definitely step up. But we, as, me as an aspiring elected official, and then us as people who are going to hold elected officials accountable, we need to increase transparency at all levels of government. The county is so far behind, like the city is even doing better than the county, but the city can even do better. The federal government can do better. We need to do a much better job. Town halls, live streaming of the events. Like, we need to get to the people. We have to make a point to do that. If you don't prioritize it, it won't happen. We have not prioritized it. It hasn't happened. I'll give it to Bill, but
Just for the record, over the years, the Democrats have tried on several occasions to change the meeting times to like 7 o'clock at night so that people could come. The live streaming that the county does, we asked for them to spend a little bit more than they wanted to spend to have a better system. Oh, no, that's good enough. So it's all right. And they've had nothing but problems since. But I want you to know the Democrats have tried to push forward things so that the people could have more information. And it's always a roadblock, always some roadblock. But if I'm elected county executive, sir, I'm gonna have town hall meetings all over this county. If I'm elected to county executive, I'm gonna encourage the legislature to have their meetings at night and do a much better job live streaming. And you know something, they're gonna say it's spending money. Well, guess what? If you're a county employee, you have what's called compensatory time. So if you work 8 to 4, we'll say, and then you have to come in at 6 to 9, you don't necessarily get paid 6 to 9, but you get that time off. So it's not costing the taxpayer any extra money. The next day, the person, instead of working 8 to 4, they come in at 11, to 4. So it's nothing but excuses with the Republican Party in this county. I know that sounds very political, and I don't mean it to be that way, but that's a fact. That's reality. We've tried many times to get things changed. I had a proposal at one time to have meetings throughout the county, like 4 or 5 different areas. My God, you thought we were going to take their firstborn child, the way they acted.
So I want to thank our panelists for coming. Thank you. This was very informative. Take this information, share it with your neighbors, share it with your friends, write letters to the editor. I'm sure they'll be around here too.